They say when a person dies, a crow takes their soul to the afterlife. But if the person have unfinished business, the crow takes his soul back to his body to seek vengeance. Ah! Ah! Ah!
Oh, what happened? Oh, that's the thing. Every time I review a superhero who is already dead and comes to life, I go through that experience myself. Anyway, welcome for another show, ladies and gentlemen. After I reviewed El Muerto, I decided to review something else. Something that's more American. I'm going to review The Crow. But first, a little history. The Crow was based from a comic book by the artist and writer J.O'Barr. And how the story goes, it's a story about a guy who goes by the name of Eric. He's a magician. I cannot pronounce it. I'll just say singer. He was a young singer who is also getting his fame of becoming a really great singer, and he was happily married, and he meets this little girl named Sam who they pretty much treat her like she was their daughter because she has a heroin addict mother. Until all of a sudden a group of street gangs decided to create some problems. They went over to his house and they brutally assaulted his wife, and they hold him down to let him see what they done to her. And then after they were done to her, they killed her. And then they killed him and tossed his body out the window. That is the most brutal thing to witness. And of course, there was a cop who is a good friend to Eric, the singer. But after the murder happened, the cop's commissioner told him not to get too involved. So, he only did what the commissioner told him. But he wished he would find a way who was responsible to killing Eric and his wife. And they say in legends, every time when you die, a crow shows up and take your soul to the afterlife. But if you were brutally murdered and you have unfinished business, the crow will come back. The crow will come back and bring your soul back to your body so you can rise from the grave for vengeance. And this is how this movie goes, right here. Starring the late, great Brandon Lee, son of the legendary Kung Fu legend, Bruce Lee. Now, I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee. I love Enter the Dragon, Fist of Fury, Chinese Connection, and I'll call it Way of the Dragon, not Return of the Dragon. It didn't make any sense. I call it Way of the Dragon. But here's the thing. After Bruce Lee passed away, his son Brandon Lee, he started appearing in action films. And when he starred in this movie, The Crow, it was his last movie he ever made. And if you want to know how he died, I'll tell you later. Right now, he plays Eric, he gets murdered, and he comes back as the Crow. Come back as this undead person, seeking vengeance. Now, J.O'Barr here, he got his inspiration of the Crow because his wife died in a car accident. And that kind of bummed him out. It really made him really sad. And after he heard the news about a family who was brutally murdered, it gave him the inspiration of the Crow. Now, it isn't the same character, Eric, who comes to life every single issue of the Crow. On every issue, somebody keeps rising from the dead. But they decided to stick with the first story for this movie. On this one, he decided to do a little payback, but every time when the bad guys keep shooting him, no effect. And of course, one thing I always liked is when he met the pawn shop owner. He knew that the pawn shop owner, he knew that one of the murderers, one of the gangsters, took his and his wife's ring and put it in the pawn shop to make money. And the pawn shop owner knew about it, but he didn't say a thing. And he also took a lot of rings from other people who have died. And the gangster made a deal with the pawn shop with those rings, without saying a thing. And of course, he freaked the pawn shop owner by quoting one of the lines from The Raven. All of a sudden, I heard a tapping, like something gently rapping at my chamber door. I love The Raven. I love Edgar Allan Poe. But anyway, one by one, he keeps going after every single gangster who was involved, every single hoodlum. Now, here's a little different between the movie and the comic. In the comic, the head leader of the group, in the comic, he was a low-life leader of the... he was a low-life gangster and a leader of the group. But in the movie, they made him into a kingpin, and also be a leader who is involved in the occult. So, one by one, he goes after the gangsters who is responsible for the action until he gets to the kingpin himself in this movie. And he also has a black hitman and a Asian girlfriend who is into his cult as well. And this is how Brandon Lee died in the movie. Right in the middle of the shot where he was in this room full of those gangsters, and the head bad guy says, "Fire!" And you see all the gangsters firing their guns at him. That's where Brandon Lee died. Because, even though their guns were shooting blanks, it's attached to a squib. Now, a squib is one of these things they put under your clothing with fake blood in it. But you gotta brace yourself. Most actors have to brace themselves, because if you don't embrace themselves, those squids will blow up right in front of you, and it's really painful, and sometimes it can knock your breath out. Knock the wind out of you. Sadly, Brandon Lee, he couldn't hold his breath, and these blanks and the squibs, that's what killed him. So in order to continue the movie, they had to have his stunt double do all the action scenes, and digitally covered the stunt double's face with Brandon Lee's face in order to keep the movie going before his funeral. And of course, here's one scene that, even though in the comic book the Crow talks to Eric, he can hear what the Crow is telling him. That was in the part of the comics, but as they try to put it in the movie, they thought it would be silly to have a Crow telepathically talking to Eric. So therefore, they always do these scenes where he acts like the Crow is talking to him. And of course, the leaders start noticing that the Crow was a source of his power. So he had his hitman try to hit the Crow. It winged him, and that weakened him, but he didn't take it lying down. He got up and whipped his butt. And of course, he also... Big difference in the comic book and in the movie. In the comic book, Sam's mother, who's a heroin addict, now she gets killed by OD. But in the movie here, he grabs her and tells her that Eric grabs her and tells her that she needs to start becoming more responsible, be more of a mother, instead of a heroin addict. And he also forces a bunch of heroin out of her veins. I gotta say, that's different. But anyway, now the mother cleaned herself and took the and kept the promise to be more of a mother to Sam, because she needs a mother figure. And of course, he lets the good cop know that he's doing all this, and there's nothing he can do. Besides, after he's done, he's going to go back to his grave, and that's what happened. And that there was the Crow. One thing I got to say about Brandon Lee, he did a really good job in this movie. But the Brandon Lee himself, rest in peace. But here's a little known fact here, folks. During the shot of the movie, did you know that there was a skeleton cowboy in the comic? I'm not kidding. This is a picture I printed out. This is the skeleton cowboy in the comic. And here's the Raven talking to him. Now, at first, they were going along with the comic by having the skeleton cowboy appear in the movie. And there was a deleted scene where it showed him appearing in front of Eric. But they thought that the skeleton cowboy was too ridiculous that they deleted it. But I gotta say one thing. After Eric resurrection from the dead, one thing he did to those bad guys, he's taking them on the highway to hell! Bow, bow, highway to hell! Bow, bow, highway to hell! Yeah! And after he's done, he has to start knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Hi, 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 yeah. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Ooh, yeah. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Ooh, yeah. I always been a huge fan of Bruce Lee. The reason why I really like Bruce Lee is he has a remarkable set of skills. But beware the sequels, ladies and gentlemen. Because they made sequels that it was just straight out ridiculous. The second movie they made was, of course, The Crow, City of Angels. So now he's in Los Angeles. Of course, this is a different person. He dies, comes to life, and now seeking vengeance in L.A. Now, I, for one, is not into sequels. I mean, I would watch them out of curiosity, but I don't know which is... But I'm just not one with sequels. Of course, they make the franchise go on, but sometimes sequels gets really ridiculous. Like they made this one, like this other sequel here. Crow Seraphin. Or Seraphin or Crow Sovereign. Anyway, this is the third movie with another guy becoming the Crow and the lovely Kirsten Dunst. Now, I have a huge crush on Kirsten Dunst ever since the movie Jumanji. I mean, I think she's really, really cute. And she's a really dang good actress. And of course, they made another one starring Tara Reid and, of course, Edward Furlong from Terminator 2. You know, Edward Furlong, he gets himself in a lot of trouble. Poor guy. But Tara Reid, on the other hand, I have a huge problem with her. I mean, back then, I used to like her. I mean, I liked her in Josie and the Pussycats. And of course, I liked her on American Pie. Yeah, I watch American Pie. Shut up. Anyway. But how Tara Reid's been going lately, I mean, she's becoming less attractive and starting to lose her attractiveness. Maybe way too many facelifts and body lifts. And then after that, they decided to make a TV series. And it's called The Crow, Stairway to Heaven. Which it only lasted for like 1 or 2 seasons. And then that was it. And that was like the end of The Crow. Well, this here is my review of The Crow. So, if any of you likes this review of The Crow, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. And if you want to know what my next review is going to be, well, I've been reviewing a superhero who dies and comes to life. But I think I'm going to review a superhero who never dies. And here's a hint. Smoking! That's right. I'm going to review The Mask, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned. As for me, I'm out of here. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Hi, 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 yeah. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Ooh, yeah.
Nevermore.